Are you looking for affordable office space in Marion? The professional building located at 685 Delaware Avenue is the place for you. For more information, call 740-383-6803. Office space is now available. Again, telephone number 740-383-6803. This is Scott Spears, and I'd like to welcome you to Scott Spears Now. Today, a profile of one of the all-time great comedic actors, Bill Macy, who you probably know best from the hit TV series Maude, playing B. Arthur's long-suffering husband, Walter Finley. But there's much more to this man than just one role. There's Old Calcutta and a string of television and movie appearances as long as your arm. Bill's still out in Hollywood enjoying the good life at almost 91 years old. Let's visit with a guy I like a whole lot, Bill Macy. This is Scott Spears, and today we're joined by one of my all-time favorite actors, Bill Macy, whom you may remember from the hit TV show Maude, in which he played Walter Finley. But he has a whole host of other roles and activities and a great life which we're going to revisit today. Bill, you're looking great.
Thank you so much, and I wish that I could see you. You sound that you look great.
Well, we are going to work that out sometime, and we'll do this again because I do like seeing you.
Right. I appreciate that very much.
Bill, I was doing some research on you today for this interview because I wanted to get... You've had such an extensive career, but I read, and I want to know if this is correct, you were born with the name Wolf Marvin Garber. Is that correct?
No.
That's on your Wikipedia page.
I know. Wikipedia doesn't necessarily verify what they have. I don't know where they got that particular three names. My legal name is William Garber. That's my legal name. Now, what happened was that when I was born in Revere, Massachusetts in 1922, the person from the city hall wanted to verify the boy's name, the little infant's name. And my mother said his name is Wolf because it was a tradition to give somebody a name that from some prior other person's name who had passed away. The lady next door was present, Mrs. Stearns, and she said, "You can't call an American little baby boy Wolf, call him Billy." And so the person that was doing the verification put down Wolf, because that's what my mother said, like Wolf or Wolf, and then he put down Garber, and then he put down as a middle name, I think it was Martin, M-A-R-T, like in Thomas, I-N. So there was, therefore, on the birth certificate, Wolf Martin Garber. But I never used that. I used William M. Garber. How Macy came into existence, it's just a miracle. I have no idea. It just popped into my head one day. And so when I went to the union in 54, I think, Actors Equity, and they asked me for my name because I was joining the union after having done summer stock, I said it was William Garber. And they said, "Excuse us, we will go to our file to see if we have anybody else with that name." And lo and behold, there was a gentleman in Austin, Texas, who was a paid-up member of Actors Equity, and his name was William Garber. So they said, "You can't use that name because we can't have two actors with exactly the same name." Now, at that time, I was shook up because I had never been confronted with anything like this. So instead of saying, change William to Billy or Bill, which I could have done at that moment, I just latched on to Macy. So I became William Macy. And then later on, I became Bill Macy. And then I'm reading the paper some years ago. I see that Bill Macy is in a Broadway show, and I'm here in L.A. And I called the union. And I said, "Who the hell is that Bill Macy there in the Broadway show? I'm right here in Beverly Hills." And they called William Macy, and they told him what I just told you. And he said, "Well, include an H in his name." So he's William H. Macy. I'm Bill Macy. And maybe all of us rest in peace.
What a story, Bill. My goodness. It's interesting, though, because when people do search you out, which I'm sure they do, you and William H. Macy come up almost synonymous with each other.
I know. And then if you look in these little iPads and you put up Macy and you get both our faces and names, then you can differentiate. He's a better looking person and he's a better actor than I am, and he works more frequently because he's 30 years younger. He's only 60 and I'm 90, so he's a youngster.
Well, Bill, most people don't talk about their age, and I wasn't sure if we'd get into that, but you are going to be 91 next month.
May 18th, I'll be 91.
You don't look it. You don't act it. What is the secret, Bill?
I play golf 3 mornings a week. I have sardines, onions, and celery at night for supper. I have sparse meals during the day. And I have a lovely wife, Samantha, and she keeps me in shape because she's always like smacking me around and saying, "Straighten up your shoulders, do the right thing," and so on and so forth. And cards. Oh, I play cards every day, too. I play golf and cards.
Have you ever had any kind of health problem in your life?
Mental or physical?
Physical.
Well, I can't remember. Not too many, I don't think. Toothache here and there, or so on.
Wow. What a great life. Did your parents live a long life?
Yes. My mother died at 97 from a stroke. My dad died at 90. He had throat cancer. And my older brother died at 88. My older sister died at 86. And I'm 90 because I passed them. And my younger sister is 86. And I don't know who's going to go first.
Well, I think you might hit 100, Bill, with your mother and father living that long, and you look great at 91.
Well, I don't even project. I just get up every day, hopefully, and stretch and do my things because I want to play golf. I want to have a good game in golf. Oh, and I don't play the 18 holes. I have to tell you that. I play 9 holes, and I carry a 9-iron, a wedge, and a putter. And basically, we don't keep score. We just have fun. Because I hit my 9 about, say, 75. We play at a 9-hole 3-par course. And then I hit my wedge another 35 or 40. We putt 1 or 2 or 3 times. And an hour and a half later, we feel better. And I run home, take a shower, change clothes, and give my wife a kiss. And I say, "I'll see you later because I'm going to the casino to play cards."
Well, hey, that's the way to be. Now, Bill, I've heard this, that you are, and it's not a bad thing, but you like to go to the casinos quite a bit.
I go every day.
Where did that come from? Why do you like it so much?
Well, first of all, it's a place to sit down. Well, I like to gamble. We play a game called Hold'em. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've heard of that.
But did you ever play it?
I have played it a few times. It became popular a few years ago.
That's exactly right. And I used to play a $2 game and a $3 game and a $4 game. Very interestingly, we started from a home game with a group of people. I had more time after my career sort of was dwindling towards an end. And so at the home game, we played for 25 cents. And then somebody a year later said, "Let's make it 50 cents. A year later, somebody said, "Let's make it $1." And I said, "If we're going to play for $1, that's like gambling. We may as well go to the casino." And the game broke up. And the different people went their separate ways. And I went to the casino, and it was a completely different experience, but it was attractive. And I played starting with the 2-4 limit. And then I graduated to the 3-6 limit. And then I went a little further to the 4-8 limit. Now you could win or lose $50 or $100, if you weren't too good. And so little by little, I just found it attractive. And the only thing that I dislike about any of the casinos is they are very, very noisy because they keep on announcing the initials of the person to sit down at their respective games. And that is incessant. And so I don't know what to do. I have to either not go to the casino or try to find a way of not paying attention to those initials called out,
I think you should keep going. Just figure out a way to get rid of all those initials.
No, there is no other way, because that's, somebody comes into the casino, they walk to the floor person, and they say, I want to play in this game here. And he said, what's your initials? And I would say BM for myself. And then I could sit around for 20, 30 minutes waiting for a game because there's only one or two tables playing. And finally, Billy, one of the floormen, says, okay, Bill, there's a seat open over here. Sit down there. And I sit down there for 2-3 hours and have a little fun. Hopefully I don't lose too much, and sometimes I even win a couple of dollars. And then I come home and see Samantha, and we spend some time either talking, reading to each other from various periodicals. I love to read to her from William Saroyan, because he's become my favorite author of late. Do you know who he is?
I've heard of him. I haven't read anything. What would you recommend?
Anything that he has written. He's written thousands, I won't say thousands, hundreds of short stories. He's an Armenian, Armenian, and he was born in 1908. He died in 1981. And for Broadway, he had The Time of Your Life. And the books, he had The Human Comedy. And in short stories, he's had innumerable short stories. And everything he writes, I love. I just love it. And so I just like to read even 1 or 2 pages of what he, wish I had the book here in front of me right now. I would read you a couple of lines. But anybody who's listening to this, they could go to the library or Amazon and get anything by William Saroyan, Saroyan. And they'll be thrilled to read anything this man has written.
Well, they'll definitely have to do that. Now, Bill, I want to backtrack here for a second. We obviously can tell by talking to you for the first few moments here that you have various interests, certainly gambling and golf. What was it about show business? Why did you want to break into that business?
Well, my initial answer would be because I had this tremendous amount of energy as a young person. And you want me to go really to the source of it?
Yeah, well, why'd you get into that business? It's a tough business. There's a lot of rejection.
Oh, no, that's not why I got into it. I didn't. What you just said about tough and rejection, that has nothing to do with me.
Okay.
That's not where I'm from. I was born in 1922, so during that decade, it was difficult economically to do well. My parents suffered from the economic depression, and my brother and sister and myself and my younger sister were not necessarily well educated. My father left school maybe when he was 12 or 13, and there was a lot of bickering and emotional upheaval as I was growing up. As a young boy, maybe 5, 6, or 7, I noticed this, but I didn't know how to have people not do that. So I started doing foolish things. I don't know what motivated me except for what I just said. And I would get them to laugh. And in my innocence, when they were laughing, they weren't bickering. And so I carried that through my life. And so even though I'm in whatever walk of life I'm in, school, the Army, and so on and so forth, I always found an opportunity to entertain, quote unquote. And so finally, after I came out of the service, I was walking along the streets of New York City trying to find out what I was supposed to do on this planet, and I see a sign that said, "Act now, one flight up." So I went up, and I said, "What is this?" And the lady there said, "It's an acting school." And I said, "What the hell is that?" And so that's how ignorant I was about it. And Mr. Vendrina, who was running the school, came out and said, "Are you a Chihai?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Come to school. In 6 months, you'll either love it or hate it, but you'll know what it is, and the government will pay for you because of the JR Bill of Rights." So 2 months later, he comes to me and he says, "You know, you owe me $200 and the government doesn't want to pay for you." I said, "I don't have any money." He said, "Well, then you're out. We can't keep you in school." And he sued me, and the lawyer had me come into his office, and I explained to him how this all occurred, and he said, "You don't have any money? Get lost, and I'll take care of it." Now, I had 2 months' experience of acting, but I could go to a university because I was a high school grad. So I went to New York University, and I entered into the School of Drama there. But because I was much older than the other students, because I had just come out of the service, the professor made me a stage manager immediately because I was like able to be blue collar, and I did the lights, and I did the curtains, and I did the furniture moving around and stuff like that. So suddenly I was immersed in theater, and I had nothing to do with acting or success or failure. I was just functioning. I would whistle when I left the subway to go to school because I went to work essentially, and I lived on $75 a month for 4 years. And then upon graduation, I immediately went and got myself a job as a cab driver. And then every so often, I would get an off-Broadway show or a show in a church. And I kept on studying. I ended up studying with Lee Strasberg and so on. And so I never worried about rejection or anything of that nature. I just was functioning.
Well, what an interesting story. You know, I've heard a lot of people's stories about how they got into acting, and that is probably the most interesting story I've ever heard. That's fascinating, Bill.
Thank you.
I know we're going to skip a lot of stuff here, and I know you were in that great production of Old Calcutta. Tell us a little memory about that, Old Calcutta.
It's spelled O-H apostrophe Calcutta, like the Indian city. The French expression for "oh, what a lovely behind" or a lovely derriere is "au calcutta." That's what I was told. And the producer didn't want to use that French expression because he thought the public would know it, and he decided to give it a strange name like "oh, Calcutta." Nobody knew what it meant. It didn't mean anything. And Jacques Levy was the director, and I had already done 2 or 3 off-Broadway things with Jacques. And by this time, I was 47. And a bunch of the people that they hired for this show were in their early 20s, 5 men and 5 women. So what happened in that particular show, it enabled us as people who happened to be actors to really be robust and do less acting and more experiencing. For instance, there was a lot of vulgarity in the 8 scenes in which we were clothed. And then in these 4 scenes in which we didn't have any clothing on, it was pastoral and lovely and beautiful, and the difference between the human person and body versus when they opened their mouth and when they were clothed. That's what the producer was trying to show, how beautiful the person was until he started spewing out vulgarities. And it was funny also at the same time. And being one of the oldest, one of the oldest, I was the oldest person in the show. I was like 20 years older than everybody. So I got favored with some of the parts that asked for an older person, you know. And it was a lot of fun, and after about a year, I left the show to do other shows like Awake and Sing by Clifford Odets and so on and so forth. And then that show it went on for about another 20 years. And Samantha was in it for about a year or two, right?
Right.
She was in it for 3 years and so on. And suddenly the phone rang and they wanted me for Maud. And so I went from stage to TV.
Had Norman Lear seen you in a production, Bill? Is that why he wanted you for Maud?
Well, he had seen me in an off-Broadway production called America Hurrah. And in one of the scenes, there were 3 people in the scene, a girl, another guy, and myself. And we were looking at monitors and we were doing clerical work and so on. The house was only 85 seats. And it was like right there, the first row was right where the apron of the stage was. And my part was, I was eating a sandwich and suddenly, for theatrical reasons, I started to choke on a supposed chicken bone. And for about a minute or two, I was like dying there on stage, asphyxiating, because the man and woman, they went over to the side of the stage and they were arguing they should give me bread or water to save me, and so on. And so the audience thought it was hilarious. Norman talked about this on one of his times when he was being interviewed, and he saw me in that show. Now, what happened was, it's a strange little thing. I had done Awake and Sing by Clifford Odets off-Broadway. And I read in the paper that Walter Matthau is going to do Awake and Sing on television, a television movie. So I went to my agent in New York because I had been on a road, and then I came back to New York. And I said to the agent, call California and tell them that I'm available to be maybe looked at, and maybe I can get a role with Walter in Awake and Sing. So the agent was nice enough, and he picked up the phone, and he called the casting person in California. And she said, what is it? And he said, I want to submit Mr. Macy for Awake and Sing. And she said, what are you talking about? We were looking for Mr. Macy to play opposite B. Arthur and Maud. But the Hollywood agent said that he was on the road with the show. And so my agent said, he's right here, sitting next to me. She said, then we want him, period. And that's how that whole thing transpired, just for that one phone call.
Mm. Bill, B. Arthur, we spoke, I think, the night after she passed in 2009. B. Arthur, I think, she may very well be my favorite actress of all time. Tell me, you worked right across from her in the early days of her television career. Tell me about meeting B. Arthur.
Well, the real best moment that I had with her was when we first met. This was about 2 or 3 weeks into doing Maud. And we were doing it at CBS on Fairfax and Beverly. And on the second floor, we were doing our rehearsals and so on. And then at the end of the day, one day, we got into this elevator, the 2 of us. It was the slowest moving elevator in the world. A snail could beat us down to the ground floor. So I'm not saying anything, but we're sort of new to each other, and she's not saying anything. And as we approached the actual bottom before the elevator stopped, she looked at me and she said, Bill, you're a rock. Despite your lack of humor, you're a rock. That's the kind of witticism, and she did it with a straight face, by the way.
Bill, I have talked to several people about B. Arthur, and I think you would have no better perspective, or your perspective would be far better than most people's. What was it about her? And she would deny this in interviews. I got a chance to interview her. But what was it about her takes, her facial expression? She could hold a line with no words and be just so comedic with that. What was that about her?
That's right. Well, it most likely was a early upbringing also, because it makes me think of when I was growing up. You just knew when you were making people laugh, when they started to laugh, you didn't want them to stop. So therefore, and what you would do, you'd do nothing essentially. You would wait. And when you felt that they had started to stop laughing, then you moved or said or whatever. So those takes were part of the total laugh. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, she had it.
Oh, she was magnificent. Now, mind you, the writers, because she was the star of the show, gave me the opposite. So, for instance, when they started to laugh, she froze, I froze, and when the laugh came down and I had the next line, my line would be something like, "Oh, yeah." I mean, a little nothing, because she was the star of the show. And that's the way our director had it too, Hal Cooper. And if you look at some of the other shows, like Cheers, Mr. Burroughs didn't stop when people would laugh. He wanted his actors to continue living their lives even though the laughter was going on. So it was a different style for different directors and different actors.
You know, Bill, I was thinking, aside from Adrienne Barbeau, who was a lot younger than most of the rest of the cast,
She was in her
yeah, Rue McClanahan, and certainly just a few months ago we lost Conrad Bain, and B's gone. The whole cast is gone pretty much except you, Bill. How did that feel when Conrad passed away and that foursome is pretty much gone except for you?
Yeah, well, you know, it's more than just sentimental. It's a sad thing, and yet, because I have a philosophy about life and death and so on and so forth, that the death includes life includes death, and so I feel sorry, but at the same time I know they're in a better place, even though Hamlet said the undiscovered world from which nobody has returned, etc., and so and so. And I'm going to join all of them too. I'm on my way.
Not just yet.
Well, I'm not just yet, because I'm so healthy and robust. Look at me yelling while we're talking and so on and so forth.
I think you're going to be around a little bit longer, Bill, a lot longer. B, Rue, and Conrad. Bill, did you stay in touch with them after Maude ended?
Yes, but not as much as I would have liked to. We saw all of each other at different functions, but we didn't fraternize in each other's social home life or breakfast or dinner or supper or anything like that. We just saw each other in a professional manner.
Do you have? We've talked about B. Do you have any special memories of Rue and Conrad?
Well, Conrad, I loved him because he was so ebullient. Can I use that word? I don't even know if I can spell it right. Ebullient. He was always like I'm up now in this conversation with you. That's how he was. And he had his own remarkable sense of play and humor. Rue, see, everybody was a professional as far as I was concerned. And so they did their work from themselves within their profession. And so from a societal point of view, like after the show, I didn't really fraternize with them, but I just loved them all and respected them all, no matter how they performed, whether it's on stage or in their private life. It was just a marvelous experience. Do you know the reason that the show ended?
Why was that?
Her husband, Gene Sachs, met a younger woman, and he asked her for a divorce, and had shattered B, and she didn't want to go on with the show. And that was, we did 6 years, and that was the end of it. Otherwise, we could have gone on for another 3 or 4 years.
That's interesting, Bill. I'd never heard that anywhere.
Well, I have a big mouth. That's the reason you called me.
Well, Bill, you know, one more thing about Bea, because she is very interesting, and you brought it up there. Everybody sees her. She was always cast as these big, deep-voiced, powerful women, judges and strong. Was she like that at all?
No. She was just a strong woman, but a normal human being. So occasionally I was over, like, and she was in the kitchen, maybe in her home. That was before that she and Gene divorced. And she loved dogs, and they were always around. And they would come over asking for some kind of food and so on. And she would just be standing there and just talk to the dog as if they were children. She'd, will you just get out of here? Go into the other room, please. I'm just talking to Bill. I asked you to leave. Would you please leave? I mean, she talked to them like as if they were people. And the dog looked at her, the dog, and they would do it. They would just leave, you know.
A very, very caring woman. The few experiences I had with her in life, she seemed to always care more about you. She wanted to know how you were. It was hard to interview her for that reason.
I see. Yeah. When you say you mean like the interviewer.
Yeah, she was always, are you comfortable, and just a very funny woman.
Yeah. Well, you know, she had a great comic timing, and I used to love playing scenes with her in which there was physicality attached to it. And both of us were stage trained, so we trusted each other. We didn't worry about what the camera was doing what they did. They just, the director would shoot the shots and so on and so forth. But we were doing the little playlet for 21 minutes. And that was just marvelous to go into work every day.
Bill, if you could drop something in a time capsule to be opened 100 years from now, from your career, what would it be?
Yeah, I don't know how to even answer that. Give me an idea. Say that again. Ask me that question again.
If you could take one...
Give me something physical?
No, just one thing, a videotape, a DVD of something you did, put it in the time capsule, what would it be from your acting career?
They had her.
Oh, yeah. Samantha just said Charlie Hatter. You know who Charlie Hatter is?
No, I'm not aware of that.
He's a character that I played with
Walter.
with Lily Tomlin and Art Carney in a movie called The Late Show. That was done maybe in the late 70s.
Robert Benton.
Robert Benton wrote the movie. And, I mean, they could see me doing character work, and not the same character that you saw as Walter. But if Samantha, who's sitting by my right shoulder here, if she says it, I would go along with her 100% because she's much smarter than I am. And better looking also.
Bill, you're totally active at 91 years old. Do you still want to work? Do you still get scripts? Do you look for jobs?
No, but when they occasionally appear, I am a little bit careful, but I have the fact that you're even talking to me means that the public is aware that I've been humorous or a comedic in my career. Now, recently, William H. Macy, who's in Shameless, had a script sent to me, and they wanted me to audition for the owner of the bar in that particular show called Shameless. After I read the script, I called the agent and said, I'm not taking the audition. The language that this bar owner, even though it's fictional, was so despicable that if I was on the air in the television world and people would see me saying these terrible things about other people and their the racial origins and so on and so forth, they would say, my God, I never knew that Mr. Macy was like that. Because, you know, many people think that the characters that you're playing are really like yourself, you know. So I turned that kind of thing down. conversely, when I wanted to do a different show, when I auditioned, I didn't get the part, only recently and so on. So I'm happy with whatever goes on, and I keep myself alert and alive. I get up every morning around 6:30, quarter to 7, get my golf shoes on, go out to the course, have a little coffee, play some golf, come home, then say hello to my wife, and then I say, I'll see you around, honey, and I get them to the car, and I go over to play some cards, and then I come home, and after about an hour of hanging out with Samantha, I say, I have to go to bed, because I have to get up in the morning to play golf.
So it's still a full life.
Well, of course, yeah.
You know, Bill, I always find this interesting of people who have a signature role on television. Not that it was their best work, but it was just seen in front of so many people. Does it bother you? You're a guy who was in Old Calcutta, you've done great movie roles, but next to your name, people are primarily going to remember you as Walter Findlay. Does that bug you?
No, it doesn't. I'm happy that they're even doing it. By the way, that's only the older people. There's a lot of people that I meet that weren't born in 1960-something. They were born after 78. Therefore, Maud went off the air in 1978. And so the only people that really understand who I was and am are the people that also a little, not as old as I, but they were born, say, in the 50s and 60s and 70s. But a lot of younger people, because when I go to the casino, and a lot of older people say, hi, Bill, I haven't seen you, but I'm looking at the reruns and so on and so forth. The younger people don't even know what we're talking about.
Bill, that might be true, but let me ask you this then, because I think you're an honest guy, and I certainly enjoy this time with you. The other people from Maude, Bea and Rue went on to Golden Girls, and Conrad got lucky with Different Strokes and had another great television success. Were you ever not happy that another television hit didn't really come along for you?
No, it didn't bother me at all. And I'm happy not to have appeared on the Golden Girls because I was, even though it's fiction, I was Bea's husband on Maud. Herb Edelman was Bea's husband on Golden Girls. I wouldn't have wanted to go on to Golden Girls as a guest actor after having been her husband on Maud. It's just the way I felt about that. And that did not bother me. That it's just, I'm accepting what exists, what goes on. I don't feel, listen, you have to understand, I came from an impoverished background. And I used to walk the streets of New York looking for work, and I would be bemoaning my fate and so on. The point is that I made a living for about 20, 25 years. We saved whatever we didn't spend, and now we're living on our savings. I feel blessed. I don't feel angst or anything like that. I feel that we're very fortunate in America when there's an economic deprivation for so many people that Samantha and I can live as we are living, but we have a house. But we bought the house in 1976 and we paid it off a couple of years ago. So this is our like nest egg. So we're going to just live and be happy, hopefully. And if we run out of money, then we just mortgage the house or sell the house, however you go about doing that. And we just live like, what song is that? You got to live until you die. You got to live until you die. Something like that.
Bill, if you could write the last page, if you could write the end, it's going to be years from now. I can tell that. If people can't tell that after that last little number, they're nuts. You're going to be around for a while, Bill. But if you could write the last line, how would you like to be remembered? Okay,
that's a good question, and I'm going to give you an answer because I'm very verbal. In Old Calcutta, Jock Levy, the director, said to the company, there were 5 men and 5 women, I want you each to write your own bio instead of have your agent write it for you, like what you've done, this and that. Each of you write your own bio. I remember I wrote a 1-line bio. And here's the line. Bill Macy, I was born nude. So on my death, it's got to be a reflection of that.
You used to say, thank God for rehearsals.
Samantha said, it could go on my tombstone, thank God for rehearsals. Because, you know, that makes life easy. Once you rehearse, then it's like what we're doing right now.
Would you ever go back to the stage if somebody said, Bill, come to Broadway?
No. You know why?
Why not?
8 shows a week? I mean, my God, I'm 91 in May.
But you don't look it and you don't act it.
Put me in a wheelchair. Oh, I have a great idea. Do you remember, I don't think you're old enough, but there was a show called Hell's a Poppin'.
I remember that.
Yeah, I don't know how old you are, but I don't know how you can remember that. That was like, I saw that maybe in the 50s, 40s or 50s. In one of the opening numbers, a man with a bowling ball threw the ball across the apron of the stage from one wing to the other, and he released the ball, and he stood in that position where he released it for the first act. He never moved a muscle. And when the first act closed, we heard all of the pins go crash. You got that image?
I got it. That's your role, right, Bill? We'll get, if it's a sitting role.
I wouldn't want to, that's right. In other words, the thing that I have thought about lately, but nobody is going to pick up on it because I haven't presented it to anybody. You're the first person I'm even telling it to. I would like to either skate across the scene or walk across the scene or use a wheelchair across the scene and have nothing at all to do with what's going on in the scene. It's almost like a feather going through the air or what was that?
It sounded like a cat.
No, that's what about that. You know, she's answering me literally, the cat out there. No. Then, and maybe in Act 2, maybe I go the other direction. And no words, no nothing. And it would be bizarre. What is he doing there? Why would the producer permit such a thing? But it would create some kind of a talk.
I think it would. Bill, this has been an absolute pleasure. Promise me you'll come back in the future, in between golf games and casino visits.
I promise.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for asking.
I hope you enjoyed this profile of a very funny man, Bill Macy. Almost 91 years old. And guess what? I think he's got a few more years left in him. I immensely enjoyed this visit via Skype, and I hope Bill and I will get together in the future because he's just one of those guys I happen to like. For now, though, this is Scott Spears heading for the dugout.